My name is Sammy Light, and I'm going to be telling y'all a little bit about the basic needs of a horse, whether you got a quarter horse or miniature pony or draft horse, really about all of them, and just a little bit about that. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. First up, we have somewhere to keep your horse. Lots of people keep their horses in a barn, usually with a stall. Some people have a lot of land that they will fence in and keep their horse in the fence with all that land that they got. If this is the case, then you're going to want to get some type of like shelter or like pavilion for your horse to get under in case of any type of weather conditions like rain or snow, or just simply to get out of the sun so that they're not having to sit out there on a hot day and be sweating and everything. I've also seen people that have a barn but they don't have much land. Well, a lot of them will get a round pen and put next to that barn to let those horses get exercise. If this is something that you're thinking about doing, well, definitely going to want to devote a lot of your time to getting your horse out daily, if not twice daily, and making sure that it gets the adequate exercise and all of its energy out, or else your horse will mostly become very bored and antsy, and you don't want your horse to be doing that. It'll start the swaying in the stall and everything like that. Even if you have all three of these, that is what's going to be best for any horse, because they get to stay in the barn on chilly nights, or if it's snowing, or if it's really, really hot outside. And also having that land to go run and exercise, and then a round pen, it kind of makes things easier on you when you're wanting to work your horse and stuff like that. Next up is the services that your horse might or will need. The farrier is a really big one that most people are going to want for their horses, so that you can keep shoes on your horse and make sure that their hooves are staying healthy so that they can walk around pain-free and are able to give you the best performance that they possibly can. Some people prefer not to put shoes on their horse and are going to want their horse going around barefoot. That's also okay, just depending on what kind of riding you're doing and what type of ground you are keeping your horse on. But you're still going to want that farrier just in case, or just to make sure if something, you get abscess on that hoof or anything like that. Another good person to have is a veterinarian in case of any type of emergency that you might run into, or just getting those seasonal vaccines that your horse will need come fall and spring and any other time. It's always a great thing to ask your veterinarian for a good farrier so that they can work hand in hand with each other to make sure that your horse is getting that adequate care that it needs, and so that it can perform as well as you want it to. Another good one is an equine dentist to have. They make sure that your horse's teeth will stay healthy, and going along with your horse's teeth staying healthy is a good way to make sure that your horse is getting that food and nutrition that it needs. For example, getting your horse's teeth floated. If your horse's teeth are all grown out and everything, it's not going to be able to put that food down and get the nutrition that it needs. Another thing is if it gets something stuck in its tooth, or the abscess, or in anything like that, that equine dentist is going to be able to take care of that for you. Another thing that I've seen people getting is insurance on their horses. It's not a very big thing to have yet, but if you have an expensive horse, then you're going to have that insurance on your horse so that you are able to take it to the vet whenever. You're going to be paying a set amount monthly, so that if anything happens, say your horse colics or anything like that, and those vet bills start racking up, you're just paying that set amount monthly. instead of having to pay the outrageous vet bills that you will be getting. Next is if you're keeping your horse in a stall, what it needs is just for if you're keeping it in the stall. And most of the time you're going to have a barn and a stall put together, and you're going to want to have certain things. First, you're going to want to make sure that your stall is the appropriate size for your horse. If you have a horse that's around the size of a quarter horse, then you're going to want to have a 12 by 12 stall. If you happen to have a bigger horse, like a draft horse, you're going to want about a 14 by 14 stall. Now, you could have a bigger stall than what's recommended, but you're not really going to want to go any smaller than that 12 by 12 or 14 by 14, because then your horse is starting to get cramped and can't really fit in the stall and anything like that. Another thing you're going to want to put in your stalls is shavings, whether wood shavings or straw shavings or any type of shaving is what you're going to put down for your horse and make cleaning up easier on you and just an all-around better atmosphere for your horse. Some people will have just rubber mats and no shavings, but it's recommended that you put shavings down unless you're just keeping that horse in there for a short amount of time, like at veterinarian hospitals or stuff like that. A lot of them will just have the rubber mats and no shavings, because that horse really isn't going to be in there for that long. A fun little thing you can put in there is like a ball or a toy. Lots of people use Kong balls for their horse, and it's just something for your horse to play with so that it doesn't get bored so easily. Also, in your stall, you're going to have your water bucket, whether you have automatic waters or not, or if you're keeping that water in a 5-gallon bucket. Also, a food bin, whether that's like a rubber bin or yet another 5-gallon bucket. You're going to want to have one of those to keep your food in there so that your horse isn't eating off the ground. Another good thing to have is a hay net to put your hay in so that your hay is staying up off the ground and not mixing with those shavings, and your horse isn't having to eat that hay off the ground. Next up is food. So when it comes to food for your horse, you're going to want to get some type of grain for your horse to eat, whether you're feeding it like oats and corn or you have a brand like Purina that you're feeding it. Depending on what you do with your horse and the size of your horse, every horse will mostly have a different feeding routine and different amounts that they're feeding and what they're eating. You also want to give your horse hay, whether you're giving it hay or alfalfa. If your horse is in a pasture, then it's going to be eating grass, which can go along with the hay that you're giving it. But you're going to want to make sure that even if you are keeping your horse in a pasture, you're still going to want to be giving your horse grain and hay just so that it gets all of those nutrients that it's going to be needing. Love to give horses treats, whether you're rewarding your horse for doing something or just giving it to them for the heck of it. Good thing to give is apples or carrots or anything like that. They really love those. Next is the different type of tack that your horse will need to be ridden. If you are not riding your horse and it's just sitting out or you're doing other things with it than riding, then you'll mostly just need that halter and lead rope. And you put the halter on and lead your horse around and take it wherever you need to go. You will need either a Western or English saddle, depending on what type of riding you're wanting to do. And then at saddle pad to go up underneath the saddle to give a good cushion so that the saddle is not going to sit directly on the horse's back, because that will cause damage to your horse. A breast collar to keep your saddle on more than just what that girth is going to be doing. The breast collar is not really necessary, but lots of people use them, especially in Western riding. A headstall, which is going to connect with your reins, which is what you use to control your horse and take it in the direction you're wanting to go. Also, a bit is what's going to connect to the headstall, and that's going to go in the horse's mouth and go along with the reins to control their horse. There's many different bits with many different purposes for many different types of riding. Next, you are going to have the front girth, which you can see right there up front is like, it's like that rope hanging down, and it's going to connect with your girth. It's going to wrap around your horse so that you can keep your saddle on and it doesn't fall off. The back one, it's not necessary to use that one. Some people do, some people don't. A lot of people use it in Western riding, again, kind of like the breast collar. And this is just some of the few things that you need for tack. There's many more that you're going to find yourself wanting or needing. Next up is you're going to make sure that you're going to want to keep your facility or barn clean, and along with your tack, you're going to want to keep that clean as well. A good thing to have is a wheelbarrow to put manure in and transport it outside or wherever it is that you're keeping that. Also, you can use a wheelbarrow to carry shavings in to put in the stall. Another good thing to have is a pitchfork or a rake or like a shavings rake or anything like that to pick up manure, and also something to spread the shavings around just to make your life easier. Another great thing to have is tack soap or leather soap to clean all the leather in your saddle and headstall and things like that. And also another good thing to have is leather oil to put on after you clean that tack. That's all for cleaning. Next is grooming. There's many different types of things that you will need to groom your horse. This is just some of the couple of main things basic things you'll find yourself needing. A curry comb to get that dirt and dust off your horse. A dandy brush to break up any of that mud that's on your horse, and then you use that curry comb to dust it off. Also, a hoof pick to get anything out of the hoofs before you run your horse or do anything on it. A comb to brush your horse's mane and tail and get any tangles out so that you don't end up with a rat's nest. A sweat scraper is a great thing to use after you get done riding so that you don't have that sweat sitting on your horse, and that can cause skin disease. These are just a couple basic things. You'll find yourself wanting more depending on the horse that you have as well. Lastly, there is transportation. This is not a necessity, but it can also be. You will need a truck and a trailer to haul your horse wherever. For example, picking up your horse from the seller, you're going to need a truck and trailer to transport your horse back to your place. If there's any type of medical emergency, you're going to want a trailer to move your horse to that vet. Or if you're riding in shows, you're going to want to have it to get your horse to the shows that you are riding in. This is something that you don't necessarily need to have, but if you're boarding your horse at a farm, maybe they have one that they can rent out to you or let you use to transport your horse if needed. Just something to add on there. That's about all I have to say on the basic needs of a horse, and thank y'all so much for listening.